A very good evening, one and all. I, G. Lakshmi Priyanka, Assistant Professor, St. Martin's Engineering College, welcome you all to the International Online Workshop today. So, I, G. Alavi, today I would like to take the pleasure of welcoming Chief Guest Dr. Indrapreet Kambo, Guest of Honor Engineer Nulli Namasivaya Sir, Secretary IETE Hyderabad Center, and Patron our beloved Principal Sir Dr. P. Santosh Kumar Patra, Convener Dr. B. Harikrishna, HOD and Professor ECE, and last but not the least, the participants for International Online Workshop on IoT and Cloud Computing Techniques on Data Analysis with Modern AI Tools. Welcome you all. It's well said by Steve
Madam,
Jobs that your work is going.
hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Yeah. You wait for about 5 minutes. Still, principal has not come. Once he or comes, we'll start. We'll start now.
Okay, sir.
Just you welcome. We'll start the session within 5 minutes. You are waiting for this.
Already, yeah. So sorry for the inconvenience. So within 5 minutes, Principal sir will join. We will resume the session. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am. Okay, okay. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir. Sir. Yes, yes, sir. Uh, uh. Hello, Priyanka, madam. Yeah, you can start the session. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Am I audible to all of you, sir?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. So again, welcome all the participants, guest of honor, chief guest, principal sir, and HOD, and all the participants to our session. So I would like to introduce our college. So about our college, it is established in the year 2002 by St. Martin's Engineering Education Society. 17 years of excellent experience in education, ranked among top 20 under JNTU. The college is situated in a 17-acre lush green campus. College has achieved the prestigious grade A+ from NAC. All engineering programs on MBA accredited. Granted UGC autonomous for 10 years. Only young college in Telangana to receive UGC Paramarsh, ISO certified, DSIR recognition, remote center of IIT Bombay, JHub certified JNTUH, Task certified Government of Telangana, and, and it's a member of CIA and MSME certified institution. And it's signed more than 88 memorandum of understandings with major companies than institutions. Awarded Best Engineering College by American College of Dubai. Received rupees 21.46 lakhs from CRB Government of India. Consultancy project worth of rupees 444 crores received from GHMC Hyderabad, Government of Telangana, India. Recently received a funding rupees 7 lakhs from AACTE. SMET students started receiving international awards also. The recent achievements among them are John Wellesley, one of our third year students, belongs to EC department, received funding of $4,000 from George Mason University, Virginia, USA for best startup working on real-time healthcare applications. And also one of our second year students won second prize in Project Expo at Indian International Science Festival held at Kolkata in November 2019, and also various state and national levels. SMEC has strong vision of offering world-class training to the promising engineers and management professionals. Extraordinary placements record with top MNCs, hiring about 706 plus in the current year. We have remarkable achievement by the faculty members of the college, having published 30 plus books, 6,228 plus research papers, and 98 plus patents. And for more than 18 years, we have been searching for, we have been published. Now, I would like to request our HOD sir, Dr. B. Harikrishna, HOD and Professor, to give brief introduction about our workshop. Sir, please take the
Yeah,
session.
thank you. Good evening, one and all. Myself, Dr. B. Krishna, Professor and HOD, ECE Department. Wholeheartedly welcome all the participants for this 3 days online international workshop on IoT and cloud computing techniques for data analysis with modern AI tools in association with IET Hyderabad. I welcome young and dynamic principal Dr. P. Santosh Kumar Patra sir. I welcome today's chief guest, Dr. Indrapit Kambo from USA. I welcome today's guest of honor, Nuli Namasivaya, Secretary, IET Hyderabad. So, more than 500 participants have registered for this international workshop. So, we are pleased for this active participation from all the participants. So each session is enriched with eminent speakers from all over the world who has great experience in great and well experience in areas of artificial intelligence, IoT, and cloud computing. So each session will be enriched with practical and simulation session also. So I hope you will enjoy this three days of the workshop. I would like to thank all the speakers for accepting our request to be a part of this event. I would like to thank IETE Secretary Namasivaya sir for accepting our request to associate with SMEC. So we hope the association will continue like this. So I thank all the participants from other colleges all over India for their active participation. So I would like to thank our inspiration, the person behind this workshop, our beloved principal sir, Dr. P. Santosh Kumar Patra sir. So with his motivation and vision, till now we have conducted various events in this pandemic situation. Like we have conducted a webinar for 7 days, and FDP we have conducted for 7 days, and we have conducted an international conference for 2 days, and now we are conducting online international workshop, first ever online international workshop. And next month we are going to conduct hackathon by mechanical, civil department, electrical department, and ECE. The name Technovision 2020. So your like principals are your warmest wishes and are the real inputs for all these events, sir. So we are so pleased and grateful for your accomplishment, these grand things at your serene campus. All credit goes to our principal, sir, for fabulous to have so many events at our premises under your architecture, sir. I would like to thank Dr. Anand, sir, who is the key person for this workshop. And I would like to thank Dr. Sridhar, sir, Priyanka, madam, Ravi Kumar, sir, Ramesh Reddy, sir, Tirupati, sir, Upender, sir, and all the faculty of EC department to make this workshop a grand success. So, yeah, madam. Priyanka, madam. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your introduction. So, it's time to share about our man behind our success. I take this opportunity I take this opportunity to introduce the pattern and our beloved principal, sir, Dr. P. Santosh Kumar Patra. Dr. P. Santosh Kumar Patra, sir, holds a BE, MTech, and PhD degree in computer science and engineering. And for more than 18 years, sir has been active academician and educational administrator. His area of interest includes artificial intelligence, software engineering, data mining, and warehousing and wireless network. Sir has been honored with Governor Award thrice, Rashtriya Gaurav Award, Rashtriya Vikas Ratan Award, Dronacharya Award, and Young Leader by IBAE Dubai. Adding feather to the cap, Sir has crowning glory achievements under his name. Sir has published 24 patents and written 12 books and more than 88 international papers, including Scopus and SCI, 16 magazine articles, and 138 newspaper coverage. Recently, he has been honored as an advisor to NAC Bangalore, UGC Paramarsh, National Cyber Security Standards, Government of India. Sir has been in the editorial board of many publications like Tata McGraw-Hill, High-Tech Publications, Charulata Publications, etc. Under his leadership, college has achieved many heights like NAC A+, UGC Autonomous, NIRF ranking, and have received an amount of 31 lakhs of per UGC Paramash. He is one of the great visionary leader and inspiration to all of us. I take the opportunity to invite our principal, sir, to give his inaugural address. Sir, please hand over, sir.
So thank you, Priyanka, for a nice introduction.
So let's set light. So please continue.
So Honorable Chairman, Sri M. Lakshman Reddy sir, Executive Director, Sri G. Chandrasekhar Yadav sir, other management members and trustee members, and chief guest of today's program, Dr. Inderjit from United States of America, and guest of honor, as well as the co-convener of this program, Mr. N. Namasibaya, who is the Secretary of IETE, Hyderabad chapter, convener and HOD, and mind and the hand behind this great online workshop, Dr. B. Harikrishna, and the program coordinators, Dr. Anand, Dr. Sridhar, then Professor Ravi Kumar, Ramesh Reddy, and all the organizing committee member and staff member who worked very hard to make this event as a grand success. HODs of various departments, dean, invited guests, participants across the world, a very good evening to all of you. I am Dr. P. Santosh Kumar Patro, Principal of St. Martin Engineering College. Wholeheartedly, I would like to welcome you to this online international workshop titled as IoT and Cloud Computing Techniques for Data Analysis with Modern AI Tools, which we are going to host it in association with IET Hyderabad chapter for continuously 3 days, which starts from today. It is also scheduled for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So first of all, I would like to appreciate and congratulate Dr. Hari Krishna for taking all interest and all leadership. And this is the fourth online event what the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering is going to host within this 2 months of time. And past 3 events were already, it is briefed by Dr. Hari Krishna that it was a mega success. And even to this online international workshop also, we have received more than 500 registration, which is a phenomenal response. So my sincere appreciation to the department, to the HOD, as well as to all the co-conveners, coordinators, and organizing team members who worked very well and brought this conference from idea to a reality. And I am quite impressed with the title because this title is very close to computer science and engineering. And as you all know that I am belongs from that department. So the title says that no, it is related to IoT, related to cloud computing, and related to data analytics, and related to modern AI tools. These are all the hotcakes of today's market. And if we will talk about IoT and recent developments and all, starting from product development to supply chain management, in all the areas, vast implementation of IoT is there. And nowadays, macro to micro, all the areas, the involvement and the applications of IoT is very huge, so that no, the growth of this area is phenomenal. And talking about the cloud computing is not a new thing, but nowadays everybody wanted to push their server into cloud. So that is why usage and the demand of cloud is so huge. So the people, those who are expertise and having a good knowledge on cloud computing, their careers are also shining. So it is also a good title, and where I could able to see the usage and application, and the recent development is related to the robust storage and extensible computing power by using very low cost. These are all the preliminary areas what we can look for the further development, growth, as well as for the research point of view. Now, the most important part of this title is related to modern AI tool, artificial intelligence. That itself is in a big ocean where whatever it is all need for the hour, everything can be extracted by using our artificial intelligence, its tricks, techniques, inferences engine, then whatever the expert system, it is all available, and by using the artificial intelligence tools. So just to point some of the examples, nowadays the huge demand is there related to machine learning, deep learning, then related to digital intelligence. People were talking about virtual reality, augmented reality and all. And in this junction, I could able to recall some of the days what I had spent with Infosys campus. So during those days, I got an opportunity to hands-on this augmented reality and virtual reality. To my surprise, just to point a simple example, what is this in the sense, literally, if we will try to understand it, let's say we are on the road and we have seen one any XYZ company, and we wanted to check whether any vacancy is there for that by that company or not, or in case the vacancies are there, what type of vacancies are there, what type of job profiles are available. Nowadays, what are we doing? We have to go, we have to inquire, else we have to go to their website and check, or we have to wait for the advertisement what normally used to come in Naukri or whatever the different medias are available for posting the job requirement. This is the present era. Now, if we will integrate the virtual reality and augmented reality, so what the candidate has to do, the candidate has to just scan the image or go there with the mobile phone and focus his mobile phone camera to that company itself. Once that is focused, or you just enable your GPS, and with the GPS geotagging, the system itself will identify that in which company or which location you are standing, and in that particular location what kind of companies are there, and you can now put your request that you wanted to check the availability status about the job positions. Within a fraction of second, it will be displayed on your screen. Is it not that great? So what level of transformation, what we are going to see in the near future. So I really appreciate the HOD and the entire department and the program coordinators who have coined this name and the title. And I was also going through the contents which are all scheduled for today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. It is really mind-blowing, and definitely all the participants, undoubtedly you are going to get benefited out of this, all this 3 days content and the profile of the speakers and all. And again, at this junction, I take this opportunity to extend my thankfulness to the guest of honor, or he is also our convener of the program, Sri Namashivaya, who is the secretary of IET Hyderabad, who has supported us full-heartedly, and he has also helped us to bring this conference into a reality. And again, last but not the least, I would like to extend my thankfulness to Dr. Inderpreet, even though he is so busy and all. So today he is joining with us as a chief guest, and he is ready to address as a keynote speaker and also enlighten us with the recent developments what are all happening in these areas. So we wholeheartedly we welcome you, Dr. Indrajit and Sri Namashiva, to this great program, and I will be also eagerly waiting to hear from you. So finally, a big congratulations to all the participants, because you are all going to be a part of this international workshop for continuously 3 days, and also the knowledge matrix what you are going to get it is going to add lot of values for your career as well as for the enhancement of the knowledge and for understanding. So thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Once again, appreciation to the department, and all the very best to all the participants to have a very good knowledge sharing within this continuously 3 days of time. I am signing out. Santosh Kumar, Principal of St. Martin Engineering College. Thank you. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you would like, I can start, or as you wish.
Yeah, yes. 2 minutes. We have. Yeah.
Just a minute, sir. Like we will start it in 5 minutes, sir. Actually,
Sure, yeah.
Priyanka ma'am is facing some problem. Just 2 minutes, sir.
Sure.
Yes, Priyanka ma'am, you can carry on.
Yeah, Priyanka madam, unmute yourself and start.
Lovina ma'am, please take over the session, ma'am. Hello. So it's
Yes,
time for
Priyanka
our
ma'am.
guest of honor, Namaskar, sir, Secretary IET Hyderabad Center. I would like to invite Lovina ma'am to read sir's profile. Ma'am, please take over the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Engineer Nuli Namasivaya, born on 29 September 1967 at Iluru, West Godavari district, Andhra Pradesh, is highly motivated teaching professional, having more than 3 decades of teaching experience in electronics, communication, computer, and electrical subject. He obtained his BE degree in Electronics and Communication Engineering from Gulbarga University in 1989 and M.Tech Automation and Control System from JNTU Hyderabad in 1994 and was ranked university topper. Also done PG Diploma in Computer Science from Andhra Pradesh Productivity Council, Hyderabad in 1990. He started his career as a maintenance engineer at Sonar Caps and Lamp Private Limited in April 1989, lecturer at Vasavi College of Engineering in August 1989, and presently working as an associate professor at MVSR Engineering College since 1995. He was responsible for obtaining grant of 7.2 lakhs from AICTE under MODROPS and established PCB fabrication lab. He is currently doing research in the area of global navigation satellite system. He published 44 papers at international and national journals and conferences to his credit, out of which 6 papers won Best Paper Awards. He organized various national level workshops, short-term courses, seminars, and student technical festivals. He was fellow of IETE, senior member of CSI, life member of ISTE Instrumentation Society of India, ISOI, Institution of Engineers, Society of EMC Engineers, the Indian Science Congress, and Broadcast Engineering Society BES. He served as council member, IETE, New Delhi during 2009 to 12, convener STC committee during 2006 to 8, honorable secretary and chairman, programs committee during 2008 to 9 at IETE Hyderabad, treasurer BES Hyderabad during 2011 to 12, MC member at CSI Hyderabad during 2006 to 8. Secretary ISOI Hyderabad during 2007 to 8. Presently, he is a secretary IET Hyderabad and BESI Hyderabad. He obtained Rashtriya Gaurav Award by India International Friendship Society, New Delhi on 11th March 2005 and Best Citizens of India Award in recognition of exceptional caliber and outstanding performance is chosen area of activity by Best Citizen of India, New Delhi during January 2006. His biographical note is included in Asia Pacific Who's Who in July 2016. Thank you.
I would like to invite our chief guest, sir.
Hello, shall I start?
Yes, sir. I guess she's facing a connectivity issue. Yes, sir. You may start.
Thank you so much for your elaborate my introduction, and thank you once again for the Saint Martin's College for this inaugurating online international workshop for the last 2 to 3 months during this pandemic situation. Attended and seen and organized so many workshops, but as such, it is the first international workshop where I am coming across with the help of Saint Martin's. Actually, I Namasivaya, Secretary IET, and already working as Associate Professor at MVS Engineering College, and taking the charge of IET for the last month only, and immediately the St. Martin's people came, and they are actually asking for our cooperation and association with IET Hyderabad, and we are happy to associate with the St. Martin's Engineering College during this international workshop IoT and cloud computing and AI. See, these are the all three buzzwords actually. So nowadays, it's very, very hot topics in the world, as our principal also told, and this IoT, cloud computing, AI. So all are three very, very buzzwords and very important. And nowadays, and next 2 to 3 years, we have to see a very, very rapid development in all these areas. The Internet of Things involving internet connected devices we use to perform the processes and services that support our way of life. Another component set to help IoT succeed is cloud computing, so which acts as a sort of front end. Front end. Internet is a network of networks, as everybody knows, which provides a software, hardware, infrastructure to establish and maintain connectivity of computers around the world, while cloud computing is a new technology that delivers many types of resources over the internet. Using the cloud is important for aggregating and data and drawing insights from the data, and for much of IoT, and the system is a cloud. The sensors and devices collect the data and perform actions, but processing and commanding analytics typically happens in the cloud. The cloud computing and IoT both serves to increase efficiency in our everyday tasks and to have a complementary relationship. The IoT generates massive amounts of data, and the cloud computing provides a pathway for the data to travel a destination. And of course, we are going to hear much more about all these three areas from the various eminent speakers next all 3 days. So just before concluding my speech, and just I want to give a brief introduction about our IETE, Hyderabad. And IET is the second largest center in the country, that is in India, which is established in 1973. And whereas our headquarters at New Delhi, which is established in 1953, and we have total 65 centers across the country. And ours is the second largest center in the country after Delhi. The current corporate strength around is 2,400 members in Hyderabad, and with 86 student forums and 15 organization members. And Gulbarga is our active sub-center, and Hitam, Hyderabad is a professional activity center, comes under Hyderabad Center. And Hyderabad Center is adjudged as best local center in India several times because of its regular activities, huge building infrastructure, and furnished classrooms, well-equipped multimedia, fully equipped electronics and computer laboratories, and with a huge library with more than 10,000 books of volume, and with the latest audio-visual equipment, and also having an auditorium with a seating capacity more than 300. So the center current conducting various student activities and offering ALCCS and AMIT courses, which is equivalent to MTech and BTech electronics and computer science, and also various short-term courses in the areas of electronics, computers, IT, and etc. And also it offers the various projects and internships for the diploma holders, BE, BTech graduates, MCA, and MTech students of PG students. So many activities we'll do from IET Hyderabad Center, and one of the most active center in India out of 65 centers. And once again, because I don't want to take much time, so once again, thank for the St. Martin's Engineering College for making association of IET Hyderabad Center. And we are continuously conducting a weekly webinars also, everybody knows, I think. And only one thing I want to tell all the participants. So during this pandemic situation, this IET offers 25% discount on the life membership fee of IET, and kindly request all of you please avail this opportunity. And also the journals, the publications of IET is Journal of Education, Journal of Research, and Technical Review, having very reputed value, very high impact factors. And thank you once again for giving the opportunity, and thank you one and all. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very nice of you. And so now I would request Dr. Anand, ECE department, to introduce us about Dr. Indrapreet Kambo. Anand, sir.
Thank you, Lovina ma'am. I'm very happy to introduce our chief guest today, Dr. Indrapreet Kambo, Commercial Insight, Planning, Data Strategy, Business Insight and Analytics, and Consulting, Reporting and Innovation, Boston, Massachusetts. Dr. Indrapreet Combo is working as a principal in CRA, Boston, US office and manages RD Navigator, CRA, Rare Disease and Patent Tracking Platform. He has managed numerous data and strategy consulting projects on topics, including business opportunity assessment, competitive intelligence, and patent engagement with numerous pharmaceutical and biotech companies. SAR owns an innovative synthesis of primary and secondary data source, commonly used in pharmaceutical industry IQVIA data, global data and clinicals, government and red books, evaluate and pharma, etc. He brings strong reporting capabilities and ability to manage highly visible multiple projects on strict timelines that adhere firm identity and values. With rich experience in analytical tool development and data design, he plays a SME role and in a specialized Nike areas, rare disease, immunology, oncology, and other things. He has many projects done. Sample of the projects are marketing, sizing, segmentation, pattern identification and tracking, building data center of excellence, BI platform to do Fission targeting, analog analysis, market share, landscape assessment, M&A opportunities, commercial assessment of assets. Prior to CRA, he was a senior product specialist as IQVIA, where he created and led many data platforms and gained deep experience in data analysis, new product design, and project management before IQVIA. He has worked in many small and mid-sized data strategy consulting firms with a role ranging from project management to the client partner in problem solving. Also, he holds invitee reviewer position to international data, journals, and magazines. Besides being a renowned speaker at various university, startup challenges, and conferences on vivid topics of technology adoption in healthcare, resulting 10 plus speaking engagements, interviews, and thought leadership pieces in top magazine, international and conference, and clinical news. Beyond that, he is a very wonderful person. He showed so many hands to our college. He's ready to do many ways to our college. So we are welcoming once again Dr. Indrapreet sir. So this is over to you. So your session will start, right? Thank you, sir. Thank you for this session.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Anand
Dr.
sir.
Anand.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Anand sir. Now I would request our chief guest, Dr. Indrapreet Kambo, to start the session. Over
Thank
to
you.
you, sir.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me fine and clear?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Please let me know once you can see the screen.
Yes, we can see it, sir. You can proceed.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. Thank you, everyone, respected principal, sir, dignitaries. It's been an honor being able to present my experiences and share what I have learned over the past few decades. Really excited to share and even learn from all of you. As a background, I know Dr. Anand provided a brief on what I've done, who I am, but just to give more context, especially in the realm of artificial intelligence, AI, analytics, machine learning, I have spent a good part of the decade working with the pharmaceutical companies, biotech, healthcare companies, in basically helping them find patients, helping them discover drugs, or whether it's physician targeting, who those physicians should be. My role involves not only doing hands-on analytic work, but basically architecting the whole end-to-end solution. How should the companies think about ingesting the data, whether it should be taking the data from one source or multiple sources? Who should they be talking to get that data? Where does the data lie? How does this data would help them in the long run? And how do we do some of those analysis, some of those advanced and predictive analytics? So my role is more on the conceptual design and leveraging some of these capabilities that we have been speaking. But before we proceed, just to get a sense of where we stand in terms of knowledge capital, I would like to initiate this discussion with a poll, just so that I get some sense on where we stand and who the real audience is. So if one of you could just create this poll and see how many people are aware of AI, and where is the maturity index in terms of I don't know anything about AI to I'm proficient in AI, so that I get a sense of where we are and I can target and talk more more relative to that.
Sure, sir. I'll do it.
Thank you.
Please share the results, sir, to everyone, or you need it? So you're on mute, sir.
Everyone is fine. I
Okay.
just want to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's give them a couple of minutes before we see the results, so that everyone has participated, at least 50% or so.
Can you see it, sir?
Not yet. Or you can just let me know the results. That's fine too.
Yeah, it's around 31% has no knowledge, 59% basic idea, and remaining are low. Like basic idea with 59%.
Okay, so that gives me a good understanding. So back to the presentation. You can see the slide, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in today's discussion, now we have understood where we all are in terms of AI maturity and able to understand some of the nuances. I would like to keep this more at a high level then, giving a deep down from a business perspective, applications of AI analytics, and then dive into some of the use cases, challenges of healthcare, and what does the future look like? Basically giving you an end-to-end solution. How does some of this AI machine learning process takes place, whether it's the data ingestion or processing some of this data, the types of data that we actually encounter, and then talk about how does this even look like when a firm adopts it, or an academic institute adopts this whole life cycle. So starting with the background context, what is AI? I know it's a buzzword. It refers to a simulation of human intelligence in machines. How do we make those machines more intelligent? How to program these machines to think like how we would think. So basically, it's giving those machines an ability to think like humans. That is what that human-centric AI is. The term could be applied in different contexts, whether it's a technical context, such as how do we apply that, machine learning, predictive analytics, neural network, or something which is more softer and more intangible, like human-centric designs. The whole idea is to help machines do the work that we would be doing without AI. So with that context in mind, think about things that are using those AI and machine learnings. When you watch Netflix, if I have watched a serial on Netflix, they recommend a different season based on what I've done in the past. If I go to a shopping, a grocery for some shopping, they would start providing recommendations. You all shop on Amazon. Once you shop, let's say a specific thing like grocery items on Amazon or canned food, the next recommendation would be something which is closer to canned food. Or if I buy baby products, the next recommendation would be something in that vicinity of baby products. So how does Amazon and these big marts come to know about my preferences? It's machine learning. It's leveraging what I'm doing on internet, creating those data points and using those data points to predict what would be more useful to consumers like me, and they don't do at an individual level. So there would not be any in their Preet or Anand in that context. I would be a prototype. I would basically signify for all the people who have a consumer behavior like in the Preet should be targeted like these. So that's the whole context of AI and how this is applied. But why has this become such a critical component of our life? There are multiple reasons for it. Fast and accurate diagnostics. If we think about data, there are millions of records of data that's produced at almost like a daily level. So how do we make sense of this magnanimous amount of data, and at the same time being able to do so effectively and accurately to reduce those human errors? If I start doing manipulation in Excel, manual manipulation, it is going to create errors. Humans are prone to errors. So to reduce these errors, that's where we start leveraging some of these capabilities. Cost reduction. Now imagine someone has to mine this data day in, day out. It's a very labor intensive work. As a result, I can only scale up so much, and then the cost is huge. Rather, I would want to invest creating a machine which can do that work and not only replace one person's work, but being able to do many people's work in a fraction of seconds time. We talk about algorithmic trading. If you see the stock exchange, you see those numbers running rapidly. If you go 50 years back, it used to be a very manual process where there will be a stockbroker who would be calling out the numbers, and then people hear that number, they bid on it. That has been replaced by these machines which produces this data at a rapid speed, and being able to replace all that manual interventions, not only talk about the errors, but also being able to scale those up. And then finally, virtual presence. With the presence of this conference, for example, wouldn't have been possible if we don't have all the analytics, all the data technology in our space. So with that understanding in mind, let's dive into what is AI, where the investment is going, how does the process look like, and already knowing that this is critical and we need to know this. It's not it's good to know, rather at this point in life it's must to have. I need to know what's machine learning, what's AI, because it is going to affect my day-to-day life. So when we see the amount of funding that the startups are getting in AI machine learning, to understand is it a hot space or not, you see, and this is just a tip of the iceberg, the growth of AI machine learning based algorithms and startups have exponentially risen in the last 3 years. You see how these companies are getting VC funding. Just in 2019, there was over $26 billion of money that was invested. Compare this to 5.8 billion just like 5 years back. So it has almost 5 times in last 5 years. So you can think that every year the investment, the number of companies, they are almost doubling. This is not the case in any other industry. Just to put the context right, the speed and the velocity, which is the rate of speed of the growth of these companies, the space in itself is mind-blowing. There was a survey, or there was this research done where the amount of YouTube videos, the data that was created in Facebook, and the tweets and the emails that are created, every minute, the amount of data that's being created is more than the amount of data that has ever been created. So if we go back to the eternity, whenever this computers and technology started, like 40 years, 30 years back, from that point to the last minute, the amount of data that got collected is less than what got created in just this minute. The same goes next minute. So there's an exponential growth. It's not that it's some multiple factors growth. It's many times growth that's happening, which is the prerequisite of an AI or machine learning algorithm. I need to have a large amount of data, because more the data, better the data, better these AI machine learning algorithms and platforms would be. So it all depends on data. As we say in our industry, golden in, golden out, garbage in, garbage out. You don't have the data, it will be a bad product. If you have good data, the resulting algorithm will be great. You will have high productivity, high success algorithm that will be created out of this. So it becomes critical that you understand that it is essential for all the companies, startups, regulatory bodies, governments to focus on one critical thing rather than anything else. How do we get this data? How do we collect this data? And how do we make sense of this data? Because data ingestion, and as we will talk in subsequent slides, it's 80% of the work. You get the data, you clean the data, you already have conquered 80% of the whole space. That's what the whole projects are all about. In my most of the projects that I work on is between 4 to 6 weeks. In a 4-week project, probably we spend between 2 to 2.5 weeks just collecting the data and cleaning the data. There's no science, like no high-end technology, no machine learning AI involved till that time. So you can imagine 60-70% of the time we're just cleaning the data and collecting the data. Which sources should we use? How the data should be structured? Is it a structured or unstructured data? We'll talk about those later, but just to give you a perspective. So keep that in mind. Getting the data, collecting the data is the most critical part in this whole end-to-end life cycle. And that's some of the startups are based on just collecting the data. They just streamline that process and are multi-billion-dollar companies just because they're able to get the data and collect the data, not or analyze the data. They don't have any machine learning AI involved, but they become the basis of all these AI and machine learning projects and algorithms. Now, but when we see the geo-distribution of these startups, US goes way far ahead of all the companies. Actually, the number of startups in AI machine learning in US alone is more than all the other countries in the world combined together. And what's the reason? Silicon Valley. There is a lot of investment, a lot of smart guys, people, folks, companies, infrastructure, regulatory bodies, government supporting it, and it has created a like an ecosystem, like how some of you are aware how Gurgaon in India or Bangalore in India are going towards, or Toronto in Canada, or Beijing in China, or some of those are in Singapore. So these are hotspots. What they are, where they are heading, US already had that ecosystem for at least 40 years now. So they all come together, they support each other, and that is why we always say it's so critical to support each other to create that ecosystem. It's less about that competition and more about how do we disseminate that information, disseminate that knowledge, create a knowledge capital that we can share between each other for our own progress. Because if we have a good ecosystem, and this doesn't have to be in AI machine learning, it's overall, you need to create a niche focus, whether it's industry focus like pharmaceutics, which is Bangalore, or finance, which is Mumbai. You need to create like that ecosystem where the companies, where the people can thrive and share knowledge with each other. And that is the result why there are some of these countries like US, Canada is growing very fast. It came to top 5 when it was not even in the top 40, 50 a few years back. So you can see that growth of those countries is because they created that hub, that ecosystem. And when we talk about AI, machine learning, I think it was alluded by the dignitary before me that it's not actually your principle, that it's not just one field where this AI machine learning is being used. From predicting diseases to running autonomous car, we all have heard about Tesla with their cool autonomous cars being run on AI machine learning. They don't need a driver to run those cars. To anything in creating a privacy protocol or improving agriculture. It has touched all the different spheres that we can think of. An example would be AI is being used to create a satellite algorithm where you can predict how the weather would be for the next 6 months. If you say, okay, what is the advantage of that? Now, as a farmer or farming community, knowing what is the next 6 months look like is going to give me so much of power in my hand to do the changes that are required well in time at a cost effective, with a cost effective solution, and is scalable, so that I can prevent damage to my crops. If there is a famine or drought that is pending for the next 6 months, I know those things, and I can take action whether I need to plant rice versus wheat, or do I need to do something and go for more loan forgiveness from the government. Those are the things that will help me take those preemptive decisions, preemptive actions to safeguard my own interest. So it impacts everyone. It would be naive of me to think that AI and machine learning is only for the tech geeks and the people who are running the shows at the highest level. It affects everyone, whether you are a direct consumer or a producer of AI machine learning. That is still that depends on the use case, but everyone is getting affected in one way or other. The safety protocols, and we will talk about some of those in our slides. How does AI machine learning is helping us to safeguard or prevent our uh, to help us save lives? Or as a consumer, how does it help me to live long? The drugs that I take, which are just newly come out, like a coronavirus vaccine that Russia came out with, it is going to use some of those AI machine learning based safety algorithms to predict who could be a better candidate than the other, so that we can avoid some of those adverse events. Those are the things that become so pivotal, because we don't have enough time to do that massive clinical studies. If someone is if people are on this conference are familiar with the life cycle of pharmaceutics, it takes many years, 10, 15 years sometimes, to come out with a commercialized viable drug, from research and discovery, which in itself takes 2 to 3 years, to to doing those lab tests, phase 1, phase 2, submitting it to your FDA or ICMR or EMA, getting the results back, doing clinical studies, doing human trials, and then coming out with a drug which has to be commercialized. Then how does it behave in a commercial environment? How does it behave if you pack it in a vial? Do I pack it in a capsule? Do I pack it in a vial? The whole process takes more than 10 years. So there's no way that when we come out with a vaccine for coronavirus, within 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, it is going to pass through all those stages. So it's a expedited process. I'm going to miss some of those steps. So at that point, especially in this circumstance, it's going to be critical that I know, if I give this to someone who has a heart disease, how do I predict that he's not going to get a heart attack? So AI and machine learning will be used there. Will be used there to predict some of those happenings or prevent those happenings to occur. So you see, it's everywhere. Facial recognition. You post something on Facebook, it gives a suggestion that this could be one of your friend. How does it know? Because Facebook has mined millions, billions, trillions of faces across the world to predict who is who. If someone tags me in that photograph, it will quickly identify that this is in their feed. How does it say? Because they have a repository, a database where there are zillions of people's faces who have been mapped to their names, to their addresses, to their locations, to their Facebook profiles, Twitters, Instagrams. So when someone posts a photograph within your friend group, it quickly recognizes and say, I think this is in their feed. And then you say confirm or do not confirm. Do you want to tag me or not? So those are some of the applications. Some of those are beneficial, like preventing someone to die. Some of those are auxiliary, like facial recognition or chatbots. But the idea is that everything is being impacted by this AI, machine learning, or NLP, whatever you want to call. And to give you a more perspective, how much impact is it? Just within the pharmaceutical industry, every company is using it. It's not the top Pfizer or Novartis or Sun Pharma or some of the top companies are using it. every company that you can think of has either partnered or acquired a AI, machine learning, data analytic firm to improve the capabilities. Same goes with retail, same goes with banks, finance, grocery, you name it, everyone has it. So it's a matter of how to use it, not if they will use it, or when to use it, not if they will use it. Everyone is using it. That's just to bring a context and introduction to why this presentation is so critical to make you understand that this is something that you need to know. And I would love to share more discussions and basically create like a course on this where you can benefit from the different aspects. How do we implement this? What are the ethics? What are the challenges? How do we implement it? And we would love to have you go through this whole discussion piece by piece, checks by checks. But when we talk about AI, this is great. Everyone's using it. But once this has been implemented, even for this example of pharma companies, okay, they acquired these companies, they started using it. But where does adoption stand? So there's a difference between adoption and implementation. So, or acquisition. So I partnered with a company, AI company. I want to use their product. I'm started using it product, but the people in my company or the processes in my company are not using it or not benefiting it from it because it's still at a very immature stage. I'm still at the process where I'm trying to understand how does this fit with my business model? How does the data ingestion look like? Or do I have even have resources who can use it? Because you require a very specific skill set to deploy some of these advanced analytical tools. So in 2018, there was this research done by Gartner and I guess CBS Insights, and say, okay, how many of the companies? I think there were over 500 top companies will deploy something in the space of AI and machine learning in the next 12 months, versus how many have already deployed. So close to 15% said we already have deployed, so have acquired, have implemented somehow these AI machine learning algorithms. And about close to 1/4 of people said we will have deployed this in the next 12 months. So good progress from where we have been traditionally. So, however, same people got surveyed next year. Okay, out of the 25% people, companies, how many have deployed next year? Because they said that we will deploy this in next 12 months. Only 5% of 23% got deployed this. Basically, there was almost no progress. And you will say, okay, what's the reason? Every company wants to do it. They have money, they have insights, they understand it's critical, it's affecting them, they're losing their prominence, their dominance, their the critical value that they could deliver to their partners. But why are they not deploying it? As you will see, this field is run by challenges from lack of people who knows this field, from implementation perspective, from gestation perspective, like it takes such a long period even before we can start seeing those results. But in overall, this is a field which has its own challenges, and we need to understand some of those challenges before we can think about how do we implement this at a bigger space. So with that background, let's go into the lifecycle management and see how this data and AI is being implemented from end to end. Let's start with data. Data comes in various forms, shapes, sizes, and in the industry there are two terms which is used to classify. One is called structured data, the other is called unstructured data. Structured data is something which is easy to consume, straightforward. You can put it in databases. You all must have heard about SQL, Python, R, these languages, or cloud-based servers. If it could be easily stored there, could be created in columns, tables, that's structured data. it's basically, I can understand by look at the data. I know this is a field, this is a name, this is a age, this is the sex of the person, this is the address of the person. It's clear. I can visually see that these have different rows and columns. That's what structured data is. And you can see it's in a grid form. If I can put something in a grid form, it's structured data. For example, if I go and fill out a survey, generally it has columns. What is your name, your date of birth, your age, marital status, sex, occupation, and so forth. You fill that record, your data point 1. Someone else fills it, same records, data point 2. So, and then this gets repeated multiple times. So you have a grid where the columns could be all these variables that I asked, and the rows could be all the people that answered this. So that's structured data, highly organized, could easily search. If I search, okay, what is the date of birth of Inderpreet in this record where 500 people were surveyed, it will quickly tell me, okay, age is column 5, row 6. That is where Inderpreet's age is saved. Now, what's unstructured data? No predefined format, could be in any form, any shape, any size. I don't know what it is. Only computers can process it. If I need to mine the data, that's the term we use to do analysis. If I try to analyze the data, mine the data, it requires a lot of computational power, very strong computers. So let's say I go to a doctor, he or she writes a prescription. I get this thing repeated by 5,000 physicians, all have about 100 patients. So I have 50,000 records. I need to search who among this 50,000 records took paracetamol for pain on an evening. How do I do it? Because everything is on a piece of paper that's in prescription form. That is unstructured data. Everyone is writing in a different cursive way, different writing. Some might have a different page. It could be A4 size paper, could be legal size paper. Someone is writing in a blue color pen. Someone is writing in a black color pen. It could be someone is using a computer to write it. Someone is using an iPad. Others are just writing it on a white piece of paper. Someone is writing through a pencil. Others are just writing short forms. Someone is writing the whole sentences. So you see, everything is different. I just don't know how to process it. And once I probably could also do a manual search, like just basically look at all the forms, because it was just 500 physicians and 100 patients each. Now I think about Facebook, similar information, and I think about who has posted a photograph with a beer in hand and sandwich on the other hand on an evening night. Now there are billions and trillions of people who are posting photographs. I need to search that for that. How is it humanly possible to search that record? So for that is called unstructured data. And for that, I need very, very, very strong computers, processors to mine that data. So that's unstructured data. This becomes the basis of your AI machine learning algorithms. Structured data probably is good. It's easy to process, but one, it is very few in number. So the amount of data that is structured is probably 0.00005% of the data that I have on hand. On the other hand, but it's easy to process. On the other hand, unstructured data, millions and billions and trillions of records. It's like huge. It's like a lake. It's an ocean. I just don't know where to find this data. But that is the wealth of data that I have. That is like a gem. That is where I'm going to go to do really powerful AI machine learning algorithms. It is tough, but that is where the power lies. You see in front of you, this is like a structured data, as I was telling you. Clean records. I have rows, I have columns. One data table can be attributed to another. I can use a key like user ID, which is one-to-one relationship. So I see here user ID 1. The information is about address, phone, email, alternate email. The other one was another table where the user IDs were tagged for the different orders that they were created. Other table had the order ID created with what kind of product were there in that order ID. Another table had product ID. Now, if I need to search who someone who bought potatoes, where does he live? So I quickly, my computer search is, okay, potatoes, it's 765 product ID. It goes back to, okay, what is 765? 765 product ID was in 1234 order ID. What's 123 or 4 ID? That was bought by user ID 1. Who is user ID 1? It's Alice. And where does Alice live? She lives at 123 4th Street. So I was able to detect potatoes were ordered at 123 4th Street by going from one table to another, and there was a linkage. That's what structured data is. I can link, I can clean the data, I can visually see, or even if not visually see, I can make sense of that data. What's unstructured data? All data, all text, images, I don't know. If I need to find, okay, who are the people who are using really exceptional words or like challenging words, and the list of those challenging words includes astounding, great, tricky, or happy. Those are the exclamatory words that I want to use. So who used those words in the last 6 months, so that I know this is something which is called as sentiment analysis, to see the people who are really passionate when they write on Facebook, so that I can target them and can have them write blogs. To do so, I need to find those people and find those people who use these words. Now think about what you write on Facebook or what I write on Facebook, and someone has to mine everything that we have written for the last 6 months and come up with a rank order who in every post or every alternate post writes at least 3 of these words. That will be unstructured data. I don't know where to start. I have no information. It cannot be put in a table. I write 1 line information. Dr. Anand write 3 lines of information. Your principal is writing 6 lines of information. I'm using English. Dr. Anand is using German. Someone else is using Spanish. How do we convert those words? So you see, there's so much of variability in these things, but the power lies here, because now I have billions of records and I can predict. I cannot predict if I go back. Okay, if potato was bought 123 4th Street, where will tomato be bought? I have no idea. It's human behavior. But if I see, okay, if Inderpreet was writing tricky word every day, can I predict that Inderpreet will be writing something similar next? Yes, I can. What is the probability? I can predict. So when we come to prediction and AI and machine learning, pretty much, if I have those records, which is unstructured data, that's where I can predict. And that's why that is the beauty of this unstructured data. With that in mind, let's start with, okay, what's hiding in unstructured data? Why am I using it? Because this data comes from multiple sources. For structured data, we already know it will come through your finance departments, your HR department. There will be some sales information. You have seen Oracle databases. You enter the record for your field study, some surveys. So those are minor data sets, structured data. When we talk about unstructured data, anything and everything that you can think of being fuzzy, like your emails, what you write in email will vary. When you think about unstructured data, the biggest test that I do personally is, if I don't know what I write next time or what I have next time in that data, that's unstructured data. For example, voice transcriptions. I'm even looking at this screen, I'm going to speak something different next time I present. So I don't know what I'm going to do. That's unstructured data. If I chat with someone, I don't know what I'm going to chat about next time. Social media, if I post something today, it will be different, or it could be different from what I post next time. I don't know what is the way. But those are the unstructured data, and there is the power of predicting using that unstructured data. Now, this is, I would say, the most important slide that you should really think and focus on. What are the different steps of acquisition of this data? We have known that we have to procure the data, mostly unstructured, but yes, there will be some structured data. We start with data connectors. Data connectors are those applications which will facilitate ingestion of the data or getting the data. These are called APIs in the industry, where these APIs will connect to the different data sets, whether it's Salesforce or Facebook or Twitter, and get that data for us. in the process, the second process, data ingestion, where we will start getting this data from different sources. And we stored all this data in a big collection container called data warehouse. Now, at that data warehouse, this is pure raw data, all kinds of muddiness, all right and wrong data. Some fields are missing, some fields do not make sense. It's repetitive, some are redundant. There are a lot of challenges. As someone who wants to use AI machine learning, I apply business tools. Exclude all the people who do not speak English, so that I can target people, so that if I'm asking someone to write a blog and my business is in English, and I want to target people who write in English and use some proactive words, some words which are exclamatory, like wow, happy, sad. My business is in English or English speaking country in US. I don't have anything to do with people who are speaking German. I don't care about it. There's a business rule here. Just exclude anything which is not English. My target audience is, let's say, doctors and engineers. I want to target among those people who write blogs in English, those who write technical. I don't care about who's writing fictional, who's writing love stories, who's writing surprising stories, or sci-fi. My blog is all about, in this use case, people who are writing technical stuff for white-collar job people. So that's another business tool. So you apply those business rules to trim down and make more and more sense of the data. You apply business rules wherever the person has not blogged for 3 months at a stretch. It means that person blogs on and off. I want someone who writes often. So there's another business rule. I want someone who writes using iPad or a mobile, not a computer person, because that will make that person more probable to write those blogs. So that's another business rules. So I apply those business rules, and with that comes data security. I don't want this data to pass out. I don't want this data has a lot of proprietary information. There could be a data that has patient information. I want it to be very secure about the data. I don't want that to be passed. Imagine you passing information to Amazon, your credit card, and that information gets leaked. Someone else can use the data. So how do I ensure the security of the data? That's the next step. So getting the data, applying the business rules, making the data secure, and then start processing it, applying the different analysis on those data. Okay, I want it to sparse out in a different way where I have this data becomes scalable and efficient. I can process it in a way that I can start creating data marts, which is basically the functional level just before. And the reason I wrote data marts twice is because there can be different ways that I could create data marts. Again, I'm not going to go into technical details today. Probably in the future sessions, we would talk about some of these individual steps, but think about this data mart as a precursor step before I start applying the AI machine learning language algorithms. And then once we have that, we apply the different tools that we have for AI machine learning languages. And there are hundreds and thousands of tools that are leveraging AI machine learning, from TensorFlow to PyTorch and Keras and data robots. So this is where the programmers, the computer scientists come into play, where they would have expertise in one or the other language. They would be using these languages to say, okay, there's a code that needs to be written, so I can write this in a specific language, or a business might warrant them to write in a specific language. The reason is clear. You need to productize this code, or you need to institutionalize this code. Because if a company has been using Python for 6 years, they're not going to change this to a specific other language like Java, because the person who they found could write these codes knows only Java. So there are multiple reasons why there are and some of these tools do specific things. Spark could be faster, but PyTorch is easy to understand. Or data robot is something which is used for data storage. So different functions, different advantages, different disadvantages, business sense, and expertise. As a multitude of factors, that's how these languages get decided, what to be used, what not to be used. And then you start the specific process of an AI machine learning based language. You start with getting the data, cleaning the data, prepare the data, and then start analyzing the data. Once you, and we talked about AI machine learning workbench. Once you have that data, you basically divide into two specific parts: a training set and a testing set. As a general rule, always remember 70% of the data goes into the training set, 30% goes into the testing set. Now, what do you mean by training and testing set? If I need to apply a predictive analytics algorithm, I need to train it on something. I need to say, okay, Inderpreet bought this particular thing, and then he bought this thing. So there's a sequence. He bought product A first, product B first, second. Dr. Anand bought product C first, product D later. So these they're your data points, and all of this becomes your training set. 70% of this is training set. Now the rest 30%, I will start checking the accuracy. Okay, if Inderpreet bought A and then B, what if someone who is like Inderpreet bought product A? What would he buy? So my algorithm says he would buy something which is in that basket of product B. So let's say if I bought, for example, if I watched a series on The Good Doctor, which is one of the in US, it's one of the seasons or episode of an autistic child who is a doctor. So what is the probability that he would see something different? So, and I watched Grey Anatomy, which is another doctor-based episode or a physician-based episode. So someone who is from a medical field watched, let's say, Grey Anatomy first in a testing set. My algorithm should predict that the next thing that he or she should see or would see is something in that, again, medical field. And then there are 7 things based on what that person would see. So you see, I'm using Inderpreet in the training set, but to test it, I'm using it on someone else to predict what that person would see based on the kind of things that that person, the commonalities between Inderpreet and that person. So you see, you have, and this could be in a different set, and we call these 2 different points as analogs. So I'm using analog in the training set to test an analog in the testing set. But it's not that all these companies would be using this testing set, training set to create algorithms and voila, I am an AI machine learning based company. It doesn't happen this way. You go through different stages. You are immature at first. In the first few years, you just talk about cleaning the data, getting the data, creating simple reports, simple analysis. Then you create the BI visualizations. Then you go one step further. You start doing machine learning, predictive analytics. Next phase is it becomes prescriptive analytics, and then autonomous systems like Tesla. It will not be, my company would not be making autonomous machines when I don't even know about data. Like for you, you're not going to create predictive models after this session, because you are at a stage of a raw data stage where you are getting to know about this field. From this field, you will grow your interest. If you grow your interest, you will learn more about the data. You'll create more. You'll learn more courses. Next 5 years, 10 years, you will start developing that interest, your expertise, your experience in those fields, and there will be a point, or there could be a point, where you go towards AI machine learning path and say, I'm going to code in these languages. You learn those languages, and then you find different use cases to apply those things. So as you see, everyone has to go through a maturity phase, whether it's an individual or a company. But as I said, this doesn't come without any challenges. So there are many challenges in this field of AI machine learning language. Some of those are obvious, some are not. So let's talk about those one by one. So there's a very big upfront investment cost from procuring the data, which in itself is very, very costly. If I have to procure the data from Facebook or any other pharmaceutical data set, I have to buy that data. I have to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars. I have to create that whole pipeline where I have people, I have infrastructure, I have different servers. I have to pay Amazon for the cloud services, people to process this data, store this data, create reports, which again would require me consulting services. How should these data set look like? How should the reports look like? What are the ways I can adopt this? So there's a lot of cost, and not all the companies or people are at that point where they can invest that much of money. There are unknown risk. What happens if my data gets leaked? As a company, let's say, example, Reliance, let's say, comes out saying, okay, we are going to process this data, and anyone can buy anything from their home using the credit card services from their home in a mobile phone. They just have to text their credit card, and they can buy anything from Amazon. And Reliance think they can link this with Amazon. Again, I'm just making it up to help you understand. How would Reliance ensure that information is secure? There's no, you can even if they make sure that everything is safe and is only given to people who need it within their company, how do they ensure that when they're transferring that information to Amazon, that pathway between Reliance and Amazon is secure enough that a hacker would not hack into this and take the records? So there are many unknown risks. Resource paucity. There are not enough people in the world who knows about AI machine learning. So there's a resource paucity. Quantifying ROI, how much I invest. Let's say my investment is 5 lakhs, but the benefits that I'm getting is worth 2 lakhs. How do I justify this to my stakeholders, to my executive leaders? Long gestation period. We just saw, I may not be ready to invest 5 years of my life learning this. I want quick results, not for me. Or someone is looking for a bigger picture. 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, I want to be a subject expert. I want to be a director in a company. I want to be earning 50 lakhs, not 5 lakhs. So I'm ready to pay that money. I'm ready to invest that time. A company might be saying, Reliance, we already know that our resource, this is the next thing that I have to do. For that, I have to take losses. Now that is something that they have to decide whether they can do that gestation period, a long gestation period for next 5 years, 10 years, where they are ready to procure those losses and basically go from there. It's a costly maintenance to ensure that this pipeline is secure, stable, efficient, scalable. There has to be resources put in so that nothing breaks. Maintenance is prime. Hackers cannot hack into it. It's constantly being upgraded. The tools that were being used 20 years back, I don't even remember those tools ever being used again. Like the first language that I came across was Cobalt. I don't know anyone in the closer vicinity of mine who knows Cobalt. No one learns it anymore. That is how this industry is. What was C++ dominated industry is now Scala, Java, Python, and R dominated industry. It is still being used, but less than 5% people use it anymore. They don't use it anymore. So the maintenance is costly. The implementation is costly, and there's a constant ongoing fee. So those challenges are there. So we talked about this is a great field, the challenges, the step-by-step process on the implementation, from using a connector to ingestion to creating a warehouse, creating a data mart, using it, and then whole testing set, training set. How do I predict using one into another? How are these analogs? But when it comes to real life, where is it being used? So for this discussion today, I put together a few use cases specifically in healthcare. And to start with healthcare, where is AI and machine learning used? It's used in multiple fields. Computer surgery, we all have heard about robots doing surgery. So they're not the robots doing surgery, but they are being programmed to do a specific task based on what they have been programmed. Remote monitoring, we all use DocSign or telehealth, especially with this COVID. Everyone is remotely logging into their laptops, computers, phones to take healthcare. This is one of the use cases of AI machine learning languages. Hospital workflow, to predict who will come at when, and should there be enough workflow optimization. I don't want to be not prepared enough that 500 people come and sit in my waiting lobby, and I should also not be doing something where I don't have enough patients for the next 5 days. So how do I optimize that? How do I schedule those people? How do I predict who will come when and what will be the amount of workload? Drug reactions. This COVID case we just talked about. How will India predict when we give these vaccines to people who will respond how? Will there be an adverse rashes or will it be a fatal heart attack? We need to predict. And at that point, AI, machine learning languages will be used by these researchers, scientists at ICMR to predict who should get what kind of dosage, in what form, and at what time, in what frequency. Those are things that they will be using. So it's being used everywhere, and it will continue to be used everywhere. We just have to imbibe that this is going to affect us directly or indirectly. And to do so, we use and just for drug discovery, that's one of the use cases that I'm talking about. We're going to use multiple things, or we use multiple things, from systemic literature review, reading through journals, data collection, whether it's like we just talked about physician past reports, prescribing behavior, how and what a physician writes for the same patient who comes for different diagnoses, patient fingerprinting, what is the typical profile of a patient, medical imaging. So multiple data points. This is not comprehensive. I just gave a few examples, but data could come from any form, and all this data will be ingested to create this massive data warehouse where the data will be divided into, again, training set and testing set to create those algorithms. First use case, Atomwise. This is one company where they are trying to predict how these drug molecules that are being created by the big companies like Pfizer, Novartis, and Johnson and Johnson, Janssen and Janssen, and those companies. I need to predict when they create these molecules, will they bind to my body, to the receptors? There are two ways. One is traditional approach. You do all this experimentation first in labs, then on rats, mice, human studies, takes 10 years. That has always been the case. It doesn't pass, you go to another molecule. Do the same thing. Doesn't pass, you go to the third molecule, fourth molecule. Hundreds of molecules, you keep repeating same thing. There are many teams. Every team is working on one molecule, two molecules, 5 molecules, and they keep doing this multiple iterations. That's a traditional approach. AI machine learning languages, what they do, they enable the chemist to predict, basically called as hit discovery and lead optimization, that when this new molecule that's created by, let's say, Pfizer, a company in the US, will this bind to the body receptors? So the receptors that we have in the body, because that's a target receptor, based on the characteristics of the molecule and the characteristics of the receptor. Is there going to be a bond between these two? Using AI and ML, I'm able to predict and give a score that there is a 80% probability that it will attach, or this molecule has 20% probability. So if I have hundreds of molecules, what makes sense? Should I start with something which has a 80% probability by my machine learning model, or should I start with something which is 5%? Obviously, the former. I will start with something that has 80% probability. So I start with those in the decreasing order of the probability, and I have a better chance and better way to invest my time and effort, and hence shorten the time it takes to commercialize a product from, let's say, 15 years to 5 years. It will still be a manual process, but I have better steerings and directions in what I need to do. Another use case, customized algorithms. It tailors to specific patient population by observing how these patients will behave when these are given molecules. This is the specific case I was talking about when this COVID vaccine will come out. How do I predict who will get what kind of adverse reaction and what will lead to discontinuation? A company called Z Epigenetics, a US-based company. It's a startup. They are leveraging an AI model, a company called Curate.ai. Here, it's basically trying to identify the optimal dose. Should it be 1 ml? Should it be 2 ml? Should it be 5 ml? Or what should it be for this new drug called Zen 3694, for prostate cancer. Now I could do in a traditional setting, I could use 5 ml or 10 ml and do multiple tests. Okay, what happens when I give 5 ml to a patient, and then observe the patient over time? Is that person going to die because of that cancer? Do they get healed? Do they have side effects? Do they have hallucinations? Or do they have depression? Like, what is that? Do they have so much of vomiting that they can't take this molecule? I have to titrate. That's the word. I titrate between just enough dose that it is working, but less than what the patient is not able to tolerate. So in a traditional setting, I would titrate. But using these AI and machine learning languages and models, I'm going to predict what the optimal dose should be based on the characteristic of this drug and the past history of the patient. And I join these two factors combined together to form a combined AI machine learning model. So you see, there are multiple use cases that we could find from it. But in healthcare, there are additional challenges in AI machine learning. We already know that there are so many challenges, from high cost to maintenance and paucity of resources and gestation period. But when it comes to healthcare, the adoption becomes even tougher. Why? Because there is a challenge of regulations. It's personal history. I, as a person, would not want anyone to know what kind of disease do I have. I, as a person, don't want my information to be shared. That's why the regulations are so tight that FDA and HTA and Indians ICMR and EMA in Europe, they make it almost impossible to de-anonymize the patient. So when you buy the data, when pharmaceutical companies buy the data, they cannot know who the patient was. I will only be named as ID 001, not as Inderpreet Kambo or IK 005. It is almost impossible to backtrack it and tag this ID to the person, just for this reason. And as a result, there is so much of information that gets lost. If I cannot know the person or their characteristic or their information, it just gets blocked. Lack of expertise in this field. Not only do I need to know the data or the process, but I need to understand some of the nuances of the data. Like, if I'm buying a data set which is being administered to hospitals, to patients with oncology or with cancer, I need to know that this data only covers 50% of that information, or 50% of the hospitals. Rest 50% of the hospitals don't sell this data. Or when I get this data, there is 20% chance that the physicians are entering their specialty wrong, could be for any reason. So without knowing some of these nuances, I will make wrong predictions. And as I said, golden in, golden out, garbage in, garbage out. If I'm taking the garbage data and I don't recognize that this is not the correct data or the right data, I'm creating a bad product. I'm creating a bad model. Streamlining that data. Now, the hospitals are huge. Pharmaceutical companies are huge. It's not like a financial institute where everything is streamlined. Marketing department does not talk to commercial department, who does not talk to the IT department. So they have their own silos. They don't talk to each other. And as a result, they create their own separate small business units among themselves. And as a result, it's so difficult to streamline this data. And as a result, the data silos gets created and the AI adoption becomes even tougher. So despite these challenges, how are we going to adopt to provide better care? We partner with the AI firms who are experts in providing this kind of support. Data sharing, create consortiums, open the data between the different companies, create an organizational push where the executives of these companies, they support the transition, they support the open sharing of the data among themselves. And then be open to regulations. Like, I still remember years back when Watson came out, any question you ask them, they said, it's proprietary, we cannot share it. If you cannot share, how are the FDA and regulations going to approve those things? They would not. Just saying that this is proprietary creates such a black wall that it becomes almost close to impossible to know what kind of information is being used. So you have to be open to regulations, and then create that environment that we were talking about, create that ecosystem where these things are mitigated by disseminating of information for a AI guided drug discovery or adoption within the healthcare. So you understood how this could be leveraged in different spheres, and healthcare is just an example. Same thing goes with retail, same thing goes with finance, groceries, e-commerce, Internet of Things, cloud computing, Amazon um, to Apollo Hospital. Everyone is leveraging in different capacities and different functions. The point is that you need to be aware, one, that this is being used. Second, to know how you're getting impacted. And third, to start learning some of the nuances in this and see if this is the right fit for you. And if so, how do you track and how do you go on this path from understanding it from the business perspective to learning some of the data models that I was talking to actually creating those models yourself. These are different spheres within this AI machine learning languages, and we can talk more about those in some of the subsequent sessions if we plan to do so. But how does a data engineer differ from data scientist, from a business scientist, from a business executive? Everyone has their own role to play here, but the whole idea is that you need to create your own timeline and your own space where you know your strengths and your weaknesses and where you fit in this whole picture. One person cannot write the whole model from start to end. You need to know what place or space that you would occupy in that um, whole life cycle from start to finish. So to conclude, let's start. We have studied about AI, machine learning, from why it's needed to how it's being implemented to why it's being adopted low, and then some of the use cases that where this is being used. With that in mind, I know there are hundreds of questions, and I would love to answer some of those questions if you could put it on your chat box for about 5-10 minutes after this session concludes. But I think the idea is the point is clear here, and the takeaway message is that you need to prepare yourself and embrace this technology as it's going to change the future, not only for you but the whole world. 20 years down the line, people who would not code or does not know basic coding will be eliminated. That's simple. It's not if, it's about when. And the timeline could be 5 years or could be 20 years, but it is going to happen. And some of the things that you don't even think about, that's going to happen. Autonomous vehicles, probably 20 years down the line or 5 years down the line. I don't know. I'm not a predictor. I'm not a soothsayer who can predict future. But there's a very tangible possibility that when you see cars on the road, it will not be driven by drivers. You will see people sitting in the back seat. You already are. At least in US, we see these cars run all the times. People are not in the driving seat. They are in the passenger seat. The car is being driven. It's, yes, those are prototypes right now. It requires a lot of foolproofing. It requires a lot of regulation still. It's not a perfect stage, but we can see the future. You will see the trains and the planes being run. Even right now, it's on pilot mode. Yes, you have a pilot, but they don't fly the planes anymore. I have friends in the industry who tell me our work from flying a plane has been reduced from 100% to 5%. We just do takeoff and landing. That's it. We don't fly the planes anymore. Everything has been run by systems. You will see they probably will be eliminated in the next 20 years, where from even the takeoff and the landing will be done by the AI. Visual classification, being able to predict. It has already started in China, where everyone is being recorded. There will be continuous surveillance, and everyone has a score. You do wrong things, you steal, you murder, your score goes down. You don't get the loans. You don't buy properties. You don't buy properties, you become homeless. It becomes a cycle. You do better things, you have better credit score, things improve for you. In US, everything is about a FICO score. If I end up not paying in time, even for one of my EMIs, my score drops. As a result, I cannot apply for a rental property. If I need to rent, I will not find good places to rent. If I don't find good places to rent, I go to a bad neighborhood. If I go to a bad neighborhood, my children go to a bad school. If my children go to bad schools, they don't study they don't study well, they don't become doctors, engineers. It becomes a cycle. So you will see all those things happening again at a much more tighter level. Not only from the financial perspective, you will get emotional perspectives too. People who are not well spoken, who don't empathize with each other, they get bad scores. People who are not courteous to the government, they get bad scores. Those visual classifications, again, it's a controversial topic, but that's already started to happen in many countries. Algorithmic trading. Watson can help make decisions when to buy a stock, when to sell a stock. Right now, it's all intuitive. I think Tata Steels will go up, I buy the shares. I think Reliance will not do good in next 2 years, I sell the stock. It's all intuitive. It's running to algorithmic trading sessions where Watson and other companies are making powerful systems where they can predict when to buy, what to buy, when to sell, and who to sell. Location services based on your prediction, your behavior. If I am selling, let's say iPods, Apple iPod, I know everyone is buying phones. They don't need iPods, but there is a section of people who buy iPods. Are there people who are in a specific geography where there's bad transmissions, bad signals? I can predict those, and I can make my marketing strategy streamlined to those people, to those geographies. Predictive maintenance. Everything right now is done at a manual motion where every time you basically every 6 months, 3 months, you go for your car for maintenance, they clean the car, they change the oils. What if you can start predicting? What if you already have a system built in the car where they say after 2 months there's a high probability that your shockers will wear out, you need to change your shockers or you need to oil the shockers. That is where these automotive maintenance AI machine learning languages are being used, where they could predict what is going to happen, what you need to do to prevent those mishaps from happening. The limit, it's endless limits. So you can see how this is going to revolutionize your life. Now, there are also a lot of opponents of AI who say this is not something that should be used. It's the biggest threat to the mankind, a bigger threat than nuclear weapons. The reason is simple. We are giving so much of power to machines that it started to replace us. A classic example of this is a clinical decision support system, CDS, in hospitals, where the doctors, they are creating those algorithms that are better than doctors in predicting these radiographs or mammographs. And they say, if they can predict better than doctors, why do we need a doctor? There is a big support group who are asking for replacing of radiologists. We don't need radiologists anymore. They probably are right in some ways because they can predict, but you cannot lose a manual intervention. But what in 10 years down the line, they are able to do so much of benefit, predict better than doctors, that they actually lose out. You see a complete set of doctors being replaced, like radiologists not being used anymore. So that is how these systems are replacing the existing solutions. There's a legit concerns of these machines controlling humans. From Watson to autonomous AI, they all are replacing what's been traditionally used. And these have unintended consequences too. Few years back, Google came out with one of their AI system, which failed in predicting what it intended to, predicting corpse damage through this AI language or these models, and it could not. It failed big time. But the biggest, like we talked about a lot of challenges, but the biggest of it is mass unemployment. What if a system can do work of hundreds and thousands of people? And assembly line, let's say, when you create something, you have an assembly line, a supply chain means. If machines could replace that, or they already started to replace those, but what if they could replace at a faster rate? There would be hundreds of people that would be unemployed. Walmart, in this example, in US, a Walmart as big as a small town in India, they employ only 2 people or 3 people. That's it. Everything else is run by machines. There are restaurants in Japan that don't have waiters. Amazon came with a new concept where they don't have anyone in the whole department. You can pick up anything. You basically scan your code. You go inside. Whatever you pick gets added to your Amazon cart in the backend. Everything is being served. There's surveillance cameras all around you. Everything is being tagged, and there's location. The moment you pick up something, it gets added to your cart. You put something back, it gets dropped from your cart. So that is a system that has already been created. It has already led to hundreds of people being laid off from the job. They bought this organic food company, Whole Foods, for this purpose, that Whole Foods was getting a lot of traction. They replaced all the people in Whole Foods. They bought this company, replaced all the people, and put autonomous machines in this. We see Targets or even Stop and Shops here where there's no one to clean the area anymore. There's the robots running around, and they're cleaning the areas wherever there's a spill of milk, spill of water. So you can see there's already being replaced. And what the biggest challenge that AI people or opponents think about this is, it's going to lead mass unemployment and unequal distribution of wealth. It's interesting, in this COVID time, the last 3 months, Amazon's CEO, Mr. Bose, his wealth has increased more than what he made in the last 10 years, because they were able to deploy a lot of AI machine learning algorithms, provide those predictions, who will buy what in this COVID time when everyone is home, that he leveraged those for his own company's benefit. So you see, that's the unequal distribution of wealth. People who are rich becomes more rich. People who are not tech savvy, who don't write codes, who are at the bottom of the pyramid, they lose more. So that is one of the challenges of AI from an ethical perspective, and that's we need to always keep in mind. With that being said, I would want to leave about 5 or so minutes, but that is pretty much from my side about AI machine learning as an introduction to all the participants. I really hope that you do take something from this as takeaways and try to apply the learnings from this session into your day-to-day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I would request the participants, like if you have any doubts, you can raise your hands. Yes, we have one participant. I'll unmute. It's not getting unmuted. Yeah, Soumya, you can talk. Hello, Soumya, you can ask your question. Yes, is there anyone who wants to ask a question? Can raise your hand.
Hello.
Yeah, you can
Hello.
carry on.
Hi. I just have a question actually. I'm from aerospace industry, and most of my work I'm a data scientist, and most of my work dealt with the predictive maintenance of the airlines and all. So my question is, we are heading to something like cognitive analytics. I just wanted to know what is this cognitive analytics and where it is heading. Like, if you have any idea about it, can you just brief me about that?
Sure. So cognitive analytics is a section of AI. To be honest, this is a very specific niche within the predictive analytics where you try to understand the prescient. So by prescient, what I mean is trying to understand some of the nuances of analytics where you're able to predict what's going to happen based on the best behavior of the data points. We can take this offline, but it's very technical how these data points club together and cluster together to form those cognitive based AI models. Hello?
Yeah, thank you. It got muted. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, is there anyone who else wants to ask the question? So we have one more participant. I'm just unmuting. Yes, you can talk.
Yeah, the question which I have is that we are having a lot of issues regarding AI, as sir have mentioned. But what is the way of looking at the solutions to them? I mean, I have attended few of the IoT workshop. Everyone are raising the problems, but what kind of solutions can be done on these problems? Like jobs are going, so many biased towards the rich and stuff. So how can we make a solution to that? I mean, in that perspective, how can we think?
So I think the idea is not to think AI as a threat. It is a boon as well as bane. If you think it from that perspective, what I would suggest for everyone is to assimilate and that this is going to happen. Like when we thought about mobile phones, we always thought that this is going to take away hundreds and thousands of jobs of people in MTNL and BSNL, which is true, but they got rearranged to a different sector. Same is going to with AI machine learning languages. Probably there will be mass unemployment as we are already seeing on the assembly line. But if and when they understand the process, they are an asset. They understand the supply line. If we provide training for those folks to understand the adoption of technology and AI and machine learning, like how we have people in Amazon, they use their mobile phones to check in, check out things when they drop off stuff. It is imperative that those people adopt with the change. They learn the languages that is for them, and see how they can contribute to AI and machine learning. Probably they don't have to code or they cannot code, but there are other aspects. As I said, AI, machine learning, or analytics also, or data for that matter, is an end-to-end solution. It's a big life cycle. Where you fit in is what you need to find. You could be at the rear end of the spectrum where you are a customer experience person, where you are a part of the solution and not affected by this solution. How this AI machine learning would benefit consumers. Since someone has an example of this use case would be someone has been working in this brick and mortar store for years. They understand the nuances of the patient. For example, they don't know how to do credit cards. They can only do cash. So people like those people could be the front-end facing people, where AI machine learning could help transit from what was created in the model to how this is being used by the end users. And they could be that perfect transitors between those two people, or those two sides of the world. So you need to assimilate and adopt to this AI machine learning and not feel threatened by this. Does it answer your question?
It's gone on mute again, actually. Okay, we have one more question, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, let's do the last question.
Yeah. Yes, you can ask. Yes, Ms. Sushmita, if you have a doubt, you can ask. I guess it was a wrong hands up.
Okay, sure. So I think we are up for the time, but I really enjoyed this discussion and knowledge sharing, and I really hope that the participants did take away something from this, and feel free to read more about it, see how this can benefit you, and in future, if we cross paths, probably we can do follow-ups from this.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anand sir, you want to tell something, I think, finally. You unmute Anand sir.
Yes, sir, done.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, Dr. Indupit, sir. Really, it's a wonderful time with you. Actually, this is the within this is the hour. What are the things you want to justify within AI, especially in the medical field? That was a really wonderful things. What we are listening, and especially I have one more question on behalf of the participant, because so many participants are having the questions that. On behalf
Sure.
of the participant, I was asking the data modeling, especially data modeling. What is the key role of data modeling in data analysis? Analytic. That's why. That's
So
the
data
question
model.
I asked so many participants. On behalf of them, I want to ask you the question.
Yeah, so data model is, I would say, becomes the basis of AI machine learning. If you don't have a data model, you don't have the schema right, you don't understand the architecture behind it, it becomes difficult. Like how you, this is like a foundational concept. You need to have the data in the right order in order to predict or create algorithms on those models. So having the right data model, all the relationships, whether it's star schema or snowflake schema, or you have proper data warehouse or data lakes, that becomes the basis of how you would process any of this further data or further analysis.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Really, it's a great pleasure to be with this. And we are expecting some more kind of things from your side, and by successive events and successive things. Really, it's a great wonderful thing. I hope all participants have a very great idea. This is the first time I'm hearing data analyst with the medical tools, medical AI tools. How the medical AI tools are used in the data analytic part. That was really good things to us. Really happy to be with us for the long time. That's our wishes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Our HOD want to talk something, please let him talk.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Yeah, thank you very much for giving wonderful session on AI, sir. It's been pleasure to have you. Yeah, we look forward for further. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll end the session. So tomorrow at same time we'll meet it again. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you once.